Hi, I'm Lavina Matamidi. We're here in Gravenhurst, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with Ira Weisburd. And he will be sharing a little bit about himself, and we'll also be discussing the benefits of line dance. We have so many fans, we love your dancing, and I was just wondering, how did you get started in line dance, and how did it develop into a career?
Wow, it's a long story, but I'll start from the beginning.
Okay.
I'll try to make it short.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I found folk dancing, and I actually started teaching folk dancing because I really fell in love with that. At the same time, many of the students that I was starting to teach in a lot of the senior communities were doing line dancing. This was in the early to mid 70s.
Oh,
that was before
70s.
The big country line dance craze, and before line dancing really became widely known. And of course, you know, it started with, in the 80s with the country line dancing. But before that, many of the seniors in Florida and Canada, actually, because they came back and forth, many of them spent 6 months in South Florida and then went up to Canada, mostly from the Montreal area, also Toronto and Ontario, which we are in now. They just loved line dancing the way it was done in the beginning as recreation, like we call it today. At that time, it was a mixture. It was not just country. As a matter of fact, country was a very small amount on the broad spectrum. Most of the dances we did, they did line dancing to at that time, were dances to the music that they were familiar with from their time. And these were senior citizens that grew up in the big band era, and many of the songs were based on ballroom rhythms like swing and foxtrot and rumba, all the ballroom rhythms. And these were mostly women who did not have a spouse. They outlived their spouses, and they found this a wonderful outlet to keep dancing to their favorite songs. And many of these routines were created, or choreographed, we call it, to ballroom rhythms, so that they could dance at the socials.
So they were doing the folk dancing and then also this line dance.
That's right.
They were doing.
Oh yeah.
They had both going on.
Right, but they usually didn't mix. There were people that did just folk dancing, but a lot of the seniors at that time enjoyed both, a little of each. There were some that just wanted to do folk, just like we have those who just want to do country line dancing, and then we have those that like the variety, see? Yeah. And back then, we did everything, see? Most people don't know that.
Because a lot of we know the line dance of development to have been first it was country, and then we started injecting other styles. But it seems that even before
it came
that,
full circle. Yeah.
There was already the ballroom in it.
Mostly.
And you're right. Not a lot of people know that.
Most of the line dances that predated the country line dancing were music of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Yeah. Because we were dancing in the 70s, and that's when really line dancing, the roots of line dancing started. Mostly Florida and the Catskills, because a lot of the people would move, in the summertime to the Catskills in New York. And you remember Dirty Dancing? And, So they would have line dance classes up in the Catskills, and then they would come down and teach in these big communities, seniors communities, adult communities.
And this was 70s, 80s?
I would say, the early 70s. Beginning of the 70s.
And were the dances as we know them, like short routines, changing walls?
Most of them were one-wall dances in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. And not very interesting, but it didn't matter because they were dancing to the music they liked, And it's interesting because at the time, we didn't think of it as a real type of dance. Folk dancers actually looked down on line dancing, and ballroom dancers, oh my God, you couldn't talk about line dancing to couples because they were very, very mean to the line dancers.
I've heard a little bit.
Oh yeah. They would say, "How dare you dance on our music?" like they owned the music. It was hard, and they said mean things like, this is the dance of widows, widow dance, and it was very demeaning. So
but it was just
we went through a lot
yeah.
of trial and tribulation, and a lot of the time the line dancers won because they also lived in these communities and they had every right to get up on the dance floor as the social dancers. So the community, and it was very popular. I mean, there were like hundreds of women who didn't have partners. So they flocked to these classes, and we had huge classes, 200-300 people. It was nothing, yeah. And they would come. That would bring them out to the socials when the bands would come and play, and they'd have to split the floor, like we do split floor for line dances. You know, you have an easy version of a line dance, and then the others who are more do the more challenging dance, split the floor. Well, at the socials, we would split the floor. The ballroom dancers would be in the back half, and the line dancers in the front. And there would be a leader of the line dancers, but the social dancers were not very happy. But that was the rule. You know, they had to give equal time to everybody, and so they won in that way. Yeah.
So that's how you said it's been such a long time.
It started, yeah, and I was how I got into it was I saw that it was more popular than folk dancing, and the lady said to me, Ira, they said, why don't you start a line dance class? You know, you would be fabulous, you know, because they liked the way I taught and the folk dancing I did. And I said for two years, I said, no, I really didn't like the line dances they were doing. I didn't like it at all. And finally, they got me to do it, but I said under one condition: if I could do dances that I enjoyed doing, so I would be able to pick the ones I liked. And then I started choreographing because I didn't like too many of them, you know. They were pretty simple and boring and not so interesting. And none of them really are we doing today anymore, hardly.
Yeah.
Very few, almost none. So I started choreographing. So that's how I got into it. Yeah.
Wow, wow.
And I did my first dance, which was Whipped Cream by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. And never published it until a few years ago because I met Bunny, who was one of the traditional dancers here, who said, Ira, she said, let's do your Whipped Cream. I've been doing it for 40 years. I said, really? I said, okay, well. And we did it on stage, we filmed it, and then I finally published it at that workshop. Yeah, and then people started doing it. You know, it's a one-wall dance, nothing really special, but it was fun and people enjoyed it. And then country came, you know, the 80s.
Yeah, interesting.
And I got wrapped up in that, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, everybody did. It was great. I mean, there was a lot of energy and a lot of excitement. And I would go to all the clubs, you know. And but then it got to the point where it started to go down, you know. The popularity of it, a lot of clubs started closing. I think there was kind of a lull in good country music for a little while. Shania Twain kind of changed that when she started going mainstream, and she's from Canada, right?
Yeah.
So she led the new revival of country, I think. I would say you got to give her a lot of credit, and some of the others at that time.
And that would have been in the 90s?
Yeah, probably the early 90s, or a little bit later. Yeah.
So country was very popular, then it kind of
in the States,
down.
Yeah.
And
Europe caught on to it right away, and you know, in Europe it's very popular. Country is in France and Germany is more popular than New Line, you know, which is everything.
Would that have been when line dance started changing to different styles of music?
Yeah. When the country went down. People that loved line dance were already caught up in it. Said we don't want it to die. The country clubs might be closing, but we want to keep dancing. So many instructors who didn't have a club to dance in anymore started teaching in community centers and places like that. And choreographers started writing to more varieties, more genres. So they started doing the pop songs and the different Latin music and stuff like that, and hip hop, and you know, it goes on and on. There's so many different styles now, and it really gave a broader spectrum and it attracted a whole different audience, you know. I think a lot of people were not crazy about the whiny country, and when the new country music came out, there was a revival again. And now it's really popular back in the States, yeah. But we still do everything, you know. And in Europe, the country's, you know, just going more and more popular too, yeah. But, you know, we love all styles. So.
Yeah, that's so great now. It's all the variety.
We do, yeah. But I like the classic music and the classic style, so that's what I do, you know. And then I let the young kids and the young choreographers like you, go for the pop music and some of the hip hop stuff. Yeah, that's not really my style.
I have a bias for the Latin too, coming from a Zumba background, flamenco background.
Which is great.
I tell myself it'd be nice to do some of the hip hop too, but I don't know.
if you do hip hop,
I guess.
If you do it, it's just not what I do, and that's fine because there's, you know. It's not for everybody, but I'm not averse to it if people want to do it.